Okay, happy Friday, everyone. My name is Melissa Andrade, and I'm the Marketing Director here at DataMyte. And I'd like to thank you all for joining us today on our webinar on net content control. We will explore the overall goals of net content control in the food and beverage industry specifically, how DataMetrics effectively handles net content and lot analysis, and we'll give you a behind-the-curtain view of DC Advanced and DataMetrics, highlighting the tools and features that make this a very effective tool in managing this process at the plant. We will have a 35 to 40-minute presentation given by both Jerry Zeglin, a regional sales manager, along with Diane Bundle, one of our solution engineers. Both Jerry and Diane have extensive experience implementing net content solutions for our customers. This will be followed by 15 minutes of time for any questions you may have. At this point, we will bring in our professional services team to assist in sharing and answering questions. The audio capability is turned off for you while joining us today. If you have specific questions, please go to the questions section of the GoToWebinar control panel and send in your questions during the presentation. If you would like follow-up from one of our solution experts, please indicate this here, or in the post e-survey that you'll receive, we can just put in a request and we can address your specific requirements. This webinar is recorded and you will receive a link to it afterwards in case you need to leave early or want to share it. And at this time, I will turn over our presentation to Jerry Zeglin.
Good afternoon. This is Jerry Zeglin. I'm happy to be on. It's always interesting talking to an empty room, but I'll do my best to kind of go through this and keep it as lively as possible. I've been doing data collection activities with DataMyte for about 20-some years, so I've got some history with the products. I've got history with several of the customers that are on today, so I look forward to hearing any questions or comments you might have after the presentation. DataMyte's been collecting data really for organizations for 40 years. It started out as a portable data collection device, which is kind of interesting because we're moving back into some more portable and fixed station applications that are quite different from what we've done in the past. But what we're going to do today is I'm going to give you really just a high-level overview. The only kind of important point on this chart here is that really the key to an effective quality solution is really to plan, collect, and analyze and prove on so I have a closed loop on your data collection activities. Next. This gets into a little bit more detail. There's several key points on this slide that I want to articulate, and one is really at the bottom. If you're looking at the database, really what's key to our system is a database. It's the heart of the system, it's the gold standard, it is where all your data is stored, so that if you need to get to it for any kind of audit or anything, that's where you go, you can look at your data. On the lower left, it talks a little bit about the data collection platforms we'll be talking about today. Diane's going to go into some detail on exactly how you set a system up and collect data for net weight. I'll just kind of give you this higher level overview. But the fixed station data collector is really, we're going to take a standard computer, Windows computer, tie it into a scale, and we're going to make it a powerful data collection tool. But I also want you to know that we have mobile devices. We have some ruggedized data collection, but we can also collect like check sheet information, safety kind of information on a portable tablet, and with a check sheet kind of application that we're offering to the market today. If you kind of go over to the right-hand side, there's three boxes, and really it's the process control, which is really the reporting tool, and the alarm and notification. Once you get into collecting data, you need to be able to alarm on that data and then take action on that data. So what we're doing in the alarms and notification section is kind of closing the loop. We do have a quality planning piece that grew up in the automotive industry, but it is extensively used outside the automotive industry now. You can do things like, flow diagrams, process flow, FMEAs, and some of that information can also feed back into the data collection for SPC and net weight analysis. If you look at the top of this chart, I've got the integration piece, and some of the conversations I've had in the last month have dealt significantly, and I'm not sure if it's because of the climate that we're in right now, but a lot of different people are asking to pull data out of our database and put it into a data warehouse. I've heard data lake, I've heard data garage, so different terms, different industries, different ways of slicing the data up. But basically it's taking data out of our database and pushing it into another system so management can get different reports, visualizations of the data that can help them manage your business. So if there's something in that area and folks are interested in that, we'd be very interested in talking to you about that. The other piece of this is the ERP integration piece. A lot of people are trying to reduce touches now, just make things more efficient. We can have the ability to interface with your ERP system. So when a lot is released for production, that information can flow down to the data collection. You can collect the information, and then you can have the data that was collected signed off electronically and then pushed back up into the ERP solution. So it's kind of a closed loop environment. Next slide.
And at this time, we're going to launch our first poll question. How much emphasis does your company put on net content control? I'll give you a few seconds to vote. And we'll close the poll and share the results. We have 67% that say that net content control is very important, 17% important, 17% some but not enough. Thanks for participating.
Okay, thanks. We're getting now in more of the little bit of a detail here, but again, I'm giving a high level view. But the data collection for net content control, I mean, there's some real risks, business risks of not having timely and accurate data. You can have people running around, with some information, but not all the information and making not the best decisions. What we're going to try to do is with these systems is what we can do with these systems is to provide timely data and accurate data to help you make good business decisions. Next. The other is corporate goals. Obviously the survey said that a lot of folks were heavily involved or very important as far as net weight content goes and controlling that. So reducing the cost and is really tied back to controlling or increasing profitability. Giving product away is you're giving money away, and underfilling is going to get you in trouble with the FDA and some of the external regulation forces. So those are kind of the corporate goals, but we like to align up with the corporate teams and just make sure that we're meeting their objectives. Next. So, if you look at what's really important when you're collecting data, there's a lot of key performance indicators that are, depending on whether you're, an operator, a quality manager, a manufacturing manager, or the plant or operations person, you're going to have different goals and different performance indicators. Your operators are your first line of quality. And in a net weight environment, those are the folks that are going to grab the product off the line. They're going to measure that product. But what we want to be able to do is give them very, timely results. So as soon as they're done measuring their product, they can actually see the process and how it's behaving. They can get, Diane will show you how they can get some feedback if you're doing lot release status on whether or not you're within control or out. So there's a lot of indicators that we give back to the operators at that first level. If you get into the manufacturing or the quality managers, you're looking kind of for some different information, but there's still keys to how the plant is running. You want to make sure that data is collected in the right intervals. You don't want people collecting data, all in the beginning of a shift or all at the end of a shift. It should be timed out. We could kind of help with those kind of things. Is the process, within the acceptable limits? Are there any odd variations or things that are happening in the data that you want to maybe look at from a higher level than the plant floor person? So we're really just making sure that quality manager has a lot of views into the data to help them make decisions. Next. The other thing, if you look at the menu or the maintenance side of the business, we want to make sure that if you are alarming and there is information and notification requirements, you want to make sure if you've got a manufacturing team that goes out to the plant to adjust processes and make changes and tweak the system to make it within the tolerances required to meet your net weight content goals, we want to make sure we send those notifications to the key person, so we can actually send notifications to different individuals based on different problems. So that's kind of how we keep that maintenance side of the group involved. If you're a plant manager, you want to look at a wider view, a dashboard across the plant. We have different capabilities on how that level of folk can kind of take a look out at the plant and see how things are performing now in real time, or after the fact, after the end of a shift or at the end of a day. All the things that we try to provide the customers is really the tools to drive continuous improvement, and continuing to kind of that circle is to collect and analyze data and feed that data back, so you have a closed loop solution. So next.
And our next polling question is net content a key performance indicator for your company? I'll give you just a second to vote. And we're going to close the poll, share the results. And we have 63% say that it is a KPI, 13% no, and 25% say no, but it should be. Thanks again for voting. And I'll turn it over to Diane Bundle.
Hi, I'm Diane Bundle. I'm a solutions engineer here at DataMyte. Been here for a number of years. I started out in the applied statistics days, which then morphed to DataMetrics and DC Advanced. So I have a lot of knowledge and experience with DC Advanced. And also I've been to a number of food manufacturers and helped them with not only installing, but also creating their net content data collection, including, setting up scales and helping them implement other gauging. And then finally, the reporting part of it too. And so what I found is that the people that I've worked with in the food industry are pretty special. They have a lot of creativity, and I've been impressed with the knowledge they've had and the dedication to their products, making the best possible product they can make and trying to be more efficient. So one of the things I found, and Jerry mentioned earlier, is that those KPIs and the fact that the best implementations I've found are those where people are working together as teams. So from operators to quality to process improvement and the higher management, the more people you can get involved in that, the better it's going to be for you. So I hope this presentation opens up some new possibilities for you. Okay, I want to spend a little time on some of the benefits of net content control. So net content actually includes both weight and volumetric displacement, and we can do both, and not all competitors can do that. And I've seen situations where people are dunking ice cream cones in water to get the volume displacement, and it works great. we have the ability to separate our data into various lots or production runs. And that means that you're going to have lot traceability in case you have a customer complaint or a product recall. You'll be able to gather that lot data along with any other information, label information, and get that quickly and fast. So we have the ability to automate data collection for a number of things. Obviously, scales, many different types of scales. And I just want to say that a lot of times people have scales, but they're not sure how to hook them up, or they're not quite right, or they're having issues with them. Maybe they have thin clients, and we can work with you and get that all sorted out. Also, we can get data from check weighers and PLCs, which are, is going to give you things like temperatures and humidity and whatever other information you want. And then there's also things like test equipment. Maybe it's a pH meter or an oxygen CO2 gauge, or the ability to, get fat content. And we can connect to those other gauges. So we can compile and, get all this data from various sources, including barcodes and things like that. So the benefit of that is it's going to help you tighten your net weight process and reduce overfill, and that's going to lead to higher profits. So a little bit on the laws about net content. There are laws that are in place so that customers get what they pay for. And there are a couple different laws here in the U.S. that are there to protect consumers. So one of the things that they need to do is on the product itself, they must show the net weight, which is also called the label weight, and that's the weight without packaging. They also require that the lot average must be greater than or equal to the label weight. And then for any single package, it can't weigh less than MAV, which is the maximum allowable variation. And in DataMetrics, the MAV is the lower spec limit. So let's look at underfill and overfill because they both have their consequences. And people are very they really want to make sure they don't underfill because of all of these potential things. If you have to pay a fine or you have to shut down, that's going to cost money, and it's going to possibly result in a lawsuit and a fine and bad publicity. So this is what happened with Heinz. They had this lawsuit, and it cost them a lot of money. On the other hand, you don't want to be overfilling because that is also going to cost you money. That's kind of like a way you're finding yourself. So it results in, extra raw material costs and labor costs, and ultimately loss in profits that you could be capturing. So a few years ago, we had a pilot project with a global food manufacturer. They put it in one of their plants, and it resulted, they were kind of surprised to find that they saved $35,000 in 1 month. They ended up rolling it out to over 50 of their plants because they knew that, the cost of the software and implementation was much less than what they can get in savings. So there are potentially millions of dollars in savings for this company, and they continue to use the product.
And our next polling question is, how much of an issue is overfill in your plant? Give you a couple seconds to choose an answer. And we'll close the poll and share the results. We have an exact split, 33% for everything. Overfill is a standard operating procedure, somewhat of an issue, and not really an issue. Thanks again for voting.
All right, now I want to get a little more into the nitty-gritty and DataMetrics, the features of net content that we have. So a lot of people have different ways that they want to implement net content. And so we have different release criteria. It could be MAV, or we also have the Canadian T1 and T2, where they have they allow weights between the T1 value, which is the same as MAV, and a lower T2 value. And in Europe, I think they use kind of a similar system to the T1, T2 system. We allow for check weighers. Some places actually release on check weighers, are allowed to release on check weighers, but a lot of times they're not. So they'll either take the weights before the check weigher, and the check weigher is kicking off the low products, so that's going to be a non-normal distribution if they take the weights after. So we can, the software can account for both of those situations. We also have ways for the operators to determine if their lot is in compliance. We have optional alarms and minimum samples. And there are various displays for the operators that are going to allow them to see non-compliance. There's a summary that'll show red non-compliant areas and control charts that will show either a cumulative average or a lot at a percent above label. Again, we have this automatic data collection from a multitude of different scales, check weighers, and other equipment. And there's also an ability to do what's called a dynamic tear. If your tear doesn't change, you can just subtract that from your net weight. But if you have a dynamic tear, there's one place I went where they had to weigh 10 packages, empty packages every shift, and they wanted that average to be automatically subtracted. And we have a driver that will do that, and it eliminates the operator from having to do anything. So, they can't forget to do it. In fact, there was one really clever fellow that figured out that he not only had a dynamic tear, he also had a scale check or scale verification. And so he used two of those drivers in tandem, and if it didn't take the weight, then the operators knew, oops, I forgot to do the scale verification. So that was really a fun thing to get working. The release criteria, we have a couple of different decision trees here. This one's for MAV, and so we've got one for both MAV and for T1, T2. I'm just showing the MAV one here. We take the check weighers into account, and we allow customization of percent below label percent below MAV and percent above label. So here, if you're using this release criterion, that X is where you can put in your desired value, and the same thing with percent above label. You can customize that. All this was developed with a food company that we work closely with. So I mentioned a little bit about these customizable release criteria. So these are three of them. Lot average must be above label. The percent of the lot must be above a certain percent. Default is 55%, but you can customize that. And then percent below MAV, actual and estimated. The actual is the percent of MAV, weights below MAV in the actual lot, versus estimated. It's using the variation in your process to estimate if you're going to have a percent below MAV. And I find when I go to different places that one size doesn't fit all. Some people use just the lot average. Some people just use percent above label. Some people use combination of MAV and percent above label. So it's nice to have those different options. Plus, we have the ability to ask for, is a checkware in use? And if it is, then we allow for a non-normal distribution of the statistics. There are also optional net weight alarms. And we'll take a look at those a little bit later, but if some places want alarms because they want to alert the operators during the process so they can make adjustments in the lot, early enough in the lot to make adjustments. And some of these include like percent below MAV if they have either actual MAVs or estimated MAVs too high, if their lot average is below the label. And a third one here is subgroup failure, which is typically with meat products. The government requires that subgroups have to be at a certain value. So we have an alarm for that, and you can fill in that value. We also have minimum samples to either trigger alarms or for release. So let's say you start out and you want to, some people just want alarms right from the get-go. Other people want to wait for startup, to kind of calm down, and then after, taking a couple different subgroups, then they trigger the alarms. And then also for release, you could have everything is good to go, but if the operators haven't gotten the required number of samples for release, it will still be read and the product will be on hold. We are using what's called lot analysis in DC Advanced. So it's actually can be used with any new or any DC Advanced setup, not just net content. And what it does is data collection will start new with every new lot. So here is where the operator is opening up a setup and they're asked for the lot. They can either pick it if it's already on the list or create a new one. And that means that the data then will be segregated into that lot for your evaluation later. They're only going to see the data for that lot. This can be regulated. Here we're allowing the operator to create a new lot, but you could also have it where that list is populated by the supervisor, and operators are not allowed to create new lots. And then finally, the lots can be managed. So if let's say you close a lot, you don't want that on the list anymore so that the operator doesn't inadvertently pick it. So we can close lots. They're still available for evaluation, analysis. Let's say the operator, puts in the wrong name for the lot. You can change it. You can reassign data from one lot to another or merge it. So let's look at DC Advanced here. I've got here the lot showing in the title bar. And actually, you can also have the username showing in the title bar as well. And it really helps the operators to see what lot they're in. And also, if you're using Active Directory and you're switching out operators, their information will show up in this title bar as well. And you also notice that there's this summary here with the red, and the non-compliance is showing as red. Here we're starting out, and by the way, all those statistics are customizable, so you can have whatever statistics you're interested in. Here we have average, a percent above label, percent below MAB estimated, and it's also showing the lot status and some overfill information. So when you start out, it's red. When there is no color, it means that everything is compliant and the lot status will say release. So it's at a glance, it's very easy for the operators to see what's happening. We also have control charts that can show a middle chart showing either the cumulative average, and that's what it's showing here. And what we're seeing here is we have the label weight right here. And this last point is going to be the cumulative average of all 80 samples. And so at a glance, you can see, hey, the lot is above average. Another option is percent below or percent above label. And of course, all these views are customizable. So that means that I can have, if I want a data window or a histogram, or I want less, I can configure it how I want, and I can also save it so that the operators can't change that view. So let's look at some alarms here. These are optional net weight alarms. In fact, some people find that the summary itself is enough of a notification to the operator, but other people want alarms. So here we have one that's the lot average is below the label weight. Alarm comes up, they click OK, and then there's an optional assignable cause or corrective action. So they'll be able to pick what they did or pick what the cause was, and that can also be shown on the control chart and in our analysis software. So alarms can help the operators because they'll have the opportunity to fix a problem before it's too late. Here's a situation where the operators have collected some data. The green indicates it's all in spec. There are no actual MAVs in the lot. However, notice that the percent below MAV estimated is above 0.5, and it's too high, so it's red. And the operator might not necessarily know that they're having an instability in their fill, and this will help alert them to it so that they can make adjustments, whether it's, maybe it's a filler that is plugged, or, because what's happening is the variation is too high, and that's what's causing those MAVs.
And for our last poll question of the day, which teams rely on lot release reports? Check all that apply. I'll give you a few seconds to answer. You can answer more than one. Actually, I think you can check one. I'm going to close the poll and share the results. And we have supervisors are important. The lot release reports are important to them. Quality assurance seems to be the most important group. And thank you for participating.
Okay, we've looked at what the operator sees and does, and now let's look at some of the management tools we have. So here we have, in our analysis software, we have an event report that will show the alarms that are occurring. And you can filter on this so that you could filter for a particular type of alarm or for particular products. And you can look at this at any time and have it emailed and things. Here, what you can do is you can set up an event notification. And what I'm doing here is I'm sending, you can determine what the time period is, what the products are, what kind of alarm you're interested, and then set up this notification. It's going to pull the database every so many minutes, and then send any new emails as alarms to those that you want to have. And as Jerry mentioned, we have a dashboard production monitor that you'll be able to have a line for every collector that's collecting data. At a glance, you'll be able to see if it's green, everything is good to go. If there's red, that means there's some kind of alarm, and you can drill down on that to see what the product is, what the alarm. And this dashboard could be something that you could have on a TV monitor, on the shop floor, or you could also have it at your desk and just have it in the background as you're working. We have these customizable reports where you can create you can decide which of these statistics that you want on your report, including lots and various labels, shift and things like that. So here is one where it's showing the average, standard deviation, the release status, and we have a number of lots. And then here we can drill down on this so we can look at individual lots. And another thing we can do here with these user-defined reports is, here I'm showing everything each lot is one line. But you can actually have it where it's expandable. You can have, you can get your statistics for a number of lots and then drill down on the lot numbers and get other information, like maybe you're interested in a manufacturing date or some other label, and you'll be able to get the composite data as well as a breakout. You'll be able to use these reports, then you'll be able to filter and analyze them. And these can all be shared with people or email sent with these reports. And as you can see, you can open this in Excel and other apps. So what I found when I go to different places is a lot of time the quality techs want to have a report at their fingertips. So here we have what are called report binders, that are these reports they can click on that have already put together a data filter with the desired reports. And these the report binders can be shared. If you create one, you can say, I want other people to see it, or I just want this one for myself. So here is, you can have it do one report or a number of reports, control chart, histogram, piece data, and it can, with one click, you can run these reports. And again, they can be saved, printed, and emailed. But the nice thing about these is they have full analysis capability. They're not just static reports. And finally, you can also automate your reports so that maybe you have your lot release report run at the end of a shift or hourly. And these lot reports can also contain histograms, the actual data, piece data, and other things. So here is an example of a net weight report that is can be run, and they can be emailed to people, or if you want to save them to a shared location or print. And all of this is totally automatic. So let's look at what DataMetrics then can do for you with the net content. It'll help you to meet your regulatory compliance, which is of main importance. But it also helps you with maintaining a stable fill. So keeping your net content, being able to constantly improve on that net content control so that you're maintaining this balance between underfilling and overfilling. And what that's going to do is it's going to help you drive your profitability. So thank you very much. We're going to go to questions now.
Diane, and we do have some questions that have come in, so I will read those. First question is, how do I know if I should use MAV or T1 and T2?
Oh, okay, I'll take that. So MAV is used in the United States. T1, T2 is used in Canada, and something like it is also used in Europe. And that as I mentioned, the T1 is another name for MAV, but the Canadians have T1, and then they have T2 value, which is the lowest possible weight that a single product can have. And in between that, they have weights. They'll allow a certain percentage of weights that can be between T1 and T2. So Canada is T1, T2.
Okay, thank you, Diane. Let's see, I got another one here. What is the value of using lot analysis and net weight statistics?
I can take that. Hello, everyone. I'm Vicki Puri. I am also a solutions engineer. And the value of using lot analysis and taking advantage of those net weight statistics is watching your weights but not controlling them. Keeping them above the label opens up the opportunity to give away product, which of course costs money. But going below the label gives you the potential of having complaints, issues, and even legal issues based on federal law. So the trick is to find the balance between the two extremes, and as Diane indicated earlier, maintain a stable fill.
Okay, great. Thank you, Vicki. Let's see, the next one I have, what is the label weight?
I'll take that. The label weight is the declared weight that's on the package, also called the net weight. And one thing I want to point out is that you may have a label weight, but I found that a lot of companies, they have a target weight that's different, and DataMetrics will allow you to do that. So let's say you had, 50 grams was your label weight. You might target, 50.3, and you can do that.
Okay, great. Thank you. How can I monitor how the lot is doing?
This is Vicki again. Let me take that one for you. I have a number of places to monitor how the lot's doing. If I'm an operator or a supervisor, I can see what's going on from the plant floor in DC Advanced. And as Diane pointed out, I have my summary that might have the red if it's on hold or the white if it's not. I also have the control chart and I can look at the lot average. But I can monitor from my office looking at the results in DAR, both with the released criteria and with the events that I'm seeing. Plus, as she mentioned, we have a scheduler that would allow you to automatically send the results to your target audience on a regular basis. Lots of different ways to monitor.
Great, thank you. You mentioned a non-normal distribution with a checkweigher. How does that work?
Oh, I'll take that one. Yeah, the checkweigher, usually in the U.S., the checkweigher is not used for product release, although I've been places where, some of their products are allowed to be to use a checkweigher for release. But what a checkweigher does is it's programmed to kick off low weights. And that in itself is it's cherry picking. It's a non-normal distribution. Now, you may have a checkweigher and are not allowed to use it for release, but if you take your weights before the checkweigher, then you still have a normal distribution. If you take your weights after the checkweigher, that's the non-normal distribution. And then we have things in place in the software that will take that into account. It'll still calculate the percent below MAV, actual and calculated, but it won't use it for your release criteria. And it also will, when you use a checkweigher, it'll also use kind of different calculations for your percent above label too.
Okay, thank you. I do have one that just came in. Should we monitor and analyze the net weights when there are no previous events with issue on low weights than the declared weight? Want me to read that again?
Yeah.
Should we monitor and analyze the net weights when there are no previous events with issue on low weights than the declared weight?
Oh, I would think you'd want to, just because of overfill. I mean, what would you think, Vicki?
Well, data collection is random. and you might just have managed to not pick the low one in the batch. You're running a risk if you don't do your analysis that you missed the outlier. The risk of that
Remember
would
that
be
that one slide I had where there were no MAVs at all, and you know, sometimes operators, sometimes well, I won't go there. But you know, sometimes operators don't ever see low weights, you know, and they never record low weights. But the software is using the power of statistics to calculate what percentage of your lot would be below MAV. And that's using the standard deviation and z-tables to do that. And it's, you know, not obvious sometimes to the operators. And that's why we have that summary where you can have the percent below MAV estimated. And if that's read, you won't be able to release the product. So you could be having an unstable fill and not realize it.
So in other words, Diane, you're saying that the statistical probability of having something that's below MAV exists.
Definitely. And that's an option too. That may be a criterion that you want to check or not. It's totally up to you.
Great, thank you. Another question, can I create my own lot release report?
This is Vicki. We have a robust library of statistics in our custom report writer, which we have a wizard that will walk you through it. And of course, we teach that when we come out to your plant. But you can use whatever your criteria is. Diane showed you an example of that report. I've seen people use also their collector device that's named after the line so they can see which line it comes from. And anything that is important to you, those statistics are available. You can also include label values in your custom reports. So yes, you have a lot of options of what you can prepare.
Great. Next question, you mentioned a dashboard. How does that work?
Yeah, the dashboard is called Production Monitor, and it starts out with just a line for every workstation that's collecting data. So at a glance, you can see who's collecting data and what their status is. And if they're good to go, there's just a green circle by the name of the collector. If it's red, then you know there's an issue, and you can drill down on that. You can click on it and see what setups they're running, because they may be running a project in more than one setup. And then you can see which setup and which characteristic is having the issue, find out what the alarm is, and then you can actually go into, you can even drill down further and go into a control chart or histogram and really delve into what the issue is. But the top level is just this one line, easy to look at dashboard of your production.
In real time.
In real time, yeah.
Awesome. In some cases, the check wear rate of measurements can exceed 100 per minute. Can the software handle the speed? Yeah, well, let me put it this way. First of all, you have control over how much of that data you're going to actually record. And, in many cases, it's not necessary to collect all that data. So what we suggest usually is we have this automatic data collection feature that allows you to either collect a certain number of samples in a certain time period, or let's say 1 out of every 50 samples. And you're still going to get, plenty of data. And so we can handle it that way. And, it also depends on the hardware that you're working with. Thank you. I had a question that came in that says, how much on-site help is available after the initial setup?
That is something that our sales folks would be delighted to work with you on. This is Vicki, by the way. We give you as much on-site support as your organization decides you want. And we have had a lot of customers who want to do the setup, bring us on site and get things set up, and then revisit it later and have more advanced training or analysis, if you will, on what their process is doing and better ways to look at their data that they maybe couldn't get the first time because they're setting it up. But that's something our sales team can help you figure out.
And also, we have, tech support is available, and we, you can set up, a Teams meeting with us if you have an issue, and we can help you in that way. So, tech support is another vital part of this.
Great. The next question, can I make up my own release criteria? You can't create your own release criteria. However, we have, 5 different things that you could pick from. So there's a lot of possibility there. And then you also can customize any kind of a release criterion that has a value associated with it, like a % above label that requires a number or a % below MAV. Perfect.
So you can customize but not create.
Will I be able to subtract my tare weights from the net weight?
This is Vicki. In the presentation that Diane gave us, she was talking about a method for dynamically removing the tare. We have a driver called the subgroup driver, and what that does is I take my 10 packages, I open up my inspection, I weigh all 10, get that average, close that inspection, open up my net content for the lot, and as I measure, that average is automatically subtracted from each weight I put on the scale.
Great, thank you, Vicki. Can my scales connect with thin clients?
Yes, we, and that's another reason it's nice to have some help, because we've found that sometimes there are some adjustments that need to be made so that scales work with the thin clients, but we have that ability to do that in our software.
Great. I also have another new question that came in. Is it necessary to use this kind of software when the produced lot average weight is always equal or greater to the label weight? Want me to read that again, or?
Well,
this is like
Vicki.
The other one.
Yeah, it is, because again, you're looking at the risk of outliers. If it's equal or greater to the label weight, that's the ideal. Although again, how much greater are you risking overfill? But statistically speaking, what is the % chance that you would be producing under MAV and you're just not measuring that one? That's the power of the statistics of this process, that it gives you all the warnings you might need to monitor not only what you measure, but what you aren't measuring.
Right. And as I mentioned before in that one slide about underfilling and overfilling, overfilling is like taxing yourself or fining yourself, because if you're constantly overfilling, just so you don't have to mess with that process control, you are giving away product and you are wasting money, and there are profits that you're not reaping. So it is important to, I think it's just as important to be concerned about overfilling as it is underfilling.
Thank you. I have another new question that came in. Can the software pair with statistical tools such as Power BI?
Oh, that's a Clay question.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, so this is Clay from the Solutions Engineering Group. We have different capabilities to be able to pull that data into Power BI and be able to do further analysis to bring data in, and we continue to add in and give more capabilities. We have a fairly rich set of statistics we already calculate, and the key part of our data is that we organize and group it with different labels and details that allow you to slice and dice that data to get at particular pieces of information. So the idea of being able to pull it into something like Power BI and then do higher level analysis, and then potentially looking across multiple plants if you have it that you're using at multiple locations, it gives you a lot of opportunity. We're developing tools like OData Access to be able to pull in desired data sets from our system. We've got different locations that, we have different ways of getting at that data and information that you can fine tune your Power BI to focus on different pieces if you want to see more of just what's going on an ongoing basis as they're collecting, almost like a real-time dashboard. Again, we have our own set of tools that are at one level, and then you can basically, if you can think of it or imagine how you might want to look at this data in a different way, or maybe tie it to other insights. One of the things that people might do are take that data and tie it to other information you're collecting in the system. It might be costs, it might be temperature and humidity, it could be a number of other things. So definitely we allow that ability to pull that information out, correlate it with other systems, and we're glad to help you achieve that.
Thank you, Clay. Well, at this time, out of respect for everyone's time this afternoon, I'd like to conclude the webinar, and I'd like to thank Jerry and Diane and all the rest of the professional services team. Be on the lookout for our next upcoming webinar on May 5th. We will be unveiling a new product, so look for the invite on that one to come. And I want to thank you all for joining us, and have a great day.